All right, y'all, Leland Live, Talk 99.5. We've kind of had a little bit of a barn burner today, a lot going on. I'm going to recap a bunch of things as we get ready here for the last hour of the show. First up, Lonnie's Furniture Company bringing you the show. I love Reggie's sale that he told me about that they're going to do for a period of time to celebrate their 92nd anniversary, 92 years in business. Man, before you know it, it's going to be a century. There are not many businesses in the whole state, really the country, that can say they've just been active and ongoing that long. A family business with a family name on the building. Lonnie's Furniture Company is 92 years old. So what they're going to do is have a sale where you get $92 off every $1,000 you spend. If you want to do some quick math, that's about a 10% sale. So that's pretty good. On top of their already incredible prices, they've always got everything fairly priced. I'm not going to say cheaply priced because the quality is so good, the selection's so good. What you'll find is once you get your eye on something, then you flip that little tag over that's hanging on it, and you go, "Okay, that's good." That's when you get a quality furniture store. Some of the best people in the business too, for all parts of your home, inside, outside, every single room in the home. We'll be picking up some additional pieces from them this year too, because we've got some stuff going on at the house. We're going to need a couple more pieces. So I can't wait to go visit and walk around and walk around and walk around and look and look and look. It takes a while. It's Lonnie's Furniture Company, an acre of selection under one roof. And right now, $92 for every $1,000 you spend at Lonnie's Furniture Company. Go see them this weekend. It's going to be raining and nasty, not much to do. Lonnie'sFurnitureCompany.com. Yeah, speaking of the rain, let's kind of give a quick forecast. There's more coming through tonight. I just checked the radar. In fact, it may be raining at my house by the time the show's over. Got a lot last night. I don't know that it ever let up last night. And then a soggy day on Friday into Saturday. Even Saturday evening looks kind of messy on some of the future radars. So plan accordingly, but we do need it. And it's been a huge help to help ameliorate this drought condition, which was getting dangerous. Southeast Georgia and part of the Big Bend of Florida are still in very, very treacherous conditions for fires. And I think it's going to help them too, at least start to take some of the sting out of that. We were not at an extreme drought here, but we were getting close, and this is going to be a huge help. So more rain on the way, wet pattern through the first couple of weeks of May, it seems. All right, so the big thing today on the show has been nonstop, the landmark Supreme Court ruling today, changing the way we draw districts for congressional representation and supposedly all other representation in the country. And that would be to go to a race-neutral plan, which is the only fair thing to do in the country, rather than a race-based discriminating plan. You can't draw a district by race without discriminating against other people. You just can't do it. The whole point of it is you have to be discriminatory. And for years, we tried to fix old past discrimination that's a sinful part of this country's past with more discrimination. And that's not what the Voting Rights Act says if you read it. It was just interpreted over the years. And we had legal cases in Alabama and other states, particularly in the South, which were the guilty states, and a lot of that discrimination, were forced to draw these specifically districts for black representation in Congress. On the face of it, that seemed fair at the time, but over time, a couple of things happened. One, didn't help black people. It helped the Democrats, but it didn't help black people. Using a whole group of people as a block vote like that, by drawing these weird, crazy districts around their houses and communities to put everybody into a category by race, has not advanced the condition of the world for our African-American citizens one bit in this country. I would dare anybody to argue me that they've got any benefit whatsoever out of the system. But it wasn't the court's job to decide who benefits and who doesn't. It's just that, is that what the Voting Rights Act called for? Now, the Democrats are howling at the moon this afternoon that the Voting Rights Act's been gutted. It has not been gutted. They didn't even set aside, I think it's called Section 2. They didn't set it aside. They reaffirmed it. They reaffirmed it by clarifying it, and they clarified it by saying, no, this is exactly the opposite. What the Voting Rights Act sought to ban discrimination and keep that from being a factor. And so what should be the factor? In a fair system, in a logical system, it's more about geographies and economies, communities that live, black, white, all of you, represented in your area by districts that make sense, that are contiguous to your area, that have regular shapes. There's a map floating around of what Alabama would do now that they're out from under the auspices of the old pattern of lawsuits and cherry-picked districts. And it's a much more fair map. It's hard to argue that it's not. The way we went about trying to draw these districts, dividing communities in half, and everything that's race-based is divisive. It's just divisive. Take the category out and draw it by population. Draw it by population centers, economic centers, and things that make sense. Then you've got real representation and people going to Congress that are representing you on issues and not superficial things. As much as the left loves to glamorize and wax nostalgic and romantic about these ideas of fixing civil rights with representation and diversity, meaning like you take a group photo of people and look at what color the faces are, is not really advancing anybody. It's causing strife and division in the country. And the Voting Rights Act has been abused for decades, and now we got clarity on it. It's not what the left wants to hear. So how's it going? So what happens from that? Let's just talk raw politics. It's by taking away a Democrat advantage and using this race tool that they use to draw districts to benefit their power. It's about power. This isn't about racial representation. Don't even fool yourself. It's power. It's power of that party to try to control things. And this tool's been used by them for a long time. And before they get sanctimonious about it, they've had Eric Holder and Barack Obama in the same group running around suing states to discriminate. They file suits to discriminate. Alabama's underneath one of them, and I'll get to that in a minute. It's a pretty complicated situation. So Florida, at the same time today, already had a special session going, ran through a brand new map, wasn't even really based on this ruling, but was designed to benefit the Republicans. It's a Republican state, and it's a 4-seat pickup for the Republicans. So it's mostly southern states that are subject to the ruling. Mississippi had already declared they were going to call a special session. I believe they called it Friday, or it's going to happen Friday. They're already in motion. Louisiana was the state that was before the court. You know they're going to redraw. Then comes the question of the rest of the states. Will they also get in on the party? Well, this afternoon, the governor of the state of Alabama, who has the authority to call the session that would be needed to redraw the districts, Kay Ivey's office decided they were not going to call a special session after all. And they used, to me, it's a fig leaf excuse. They used another Supreme Court case, which is pending, and the court needs to give clarity on. And it gets a little complicated from here. But this case was based on our previous districts, which were, again, the state of Alabama lost the case, were forced to draw, by design, they were forced to draw by the federal courts, a 3-judge panel, a racially oriented district that benefited the Democrats. We got a second Democrat seat out of it here in the state of Alabama. And they were told at the time during the appeal to lock that in, that Alabama could not redraw its districts. You had to draw this district, and you can't redraw till 2030. Are y'all following me? So Kay Ivey's office came out today and said, well, we'd love to call a special session, but we can't because we're already restricted until the census in 2030 from changing our districts. We're locked in. To me, that's a lazy argument, because here's the deal. That previous ruling was based on a judicial philosophy, basically, of drawing race-based districts. The court just threw that out today. So rather than challenge the previous ruling and go to the court and say, hey, based on your new ruling, we'd like some relief from this restriction and call a session and redraw our districts and get after it, they just punted. Now, I don't know why, don't know how, don't know who advised her. Maybe they're right. Maybe legally they're correct. It just doesn't seem right to me. It seems confusing. There's some legal scholars that are part of the previous case that claim there'll be clarity from the court on Monday that may set aside all that and let us go forward. Then there's some arguments that we're within a window of 2 weeks of the primary and it's too late. So maybe that's the case. We'll see how it plays out with the people that have the authority to do it. I need to hear from the Attorney General. I don't trust Kay Ivey's legal advisors. I just don't. And we'll see where it goes from here. But it's a disappointment. She's a disappointment, not personally, but her administration. And I'm counting the days that we finally try to get some leadership in that office so that we can take the football and run it. There's a metaphor. Run the damn ball instead of playing defense, which is all we do in our state, and it's all we've done for 10 years. Oh, no, they've raised some taxes. I forget about this and done some other dumb stuff, but here we go. All right. I think that's my best explanation of where we are and how we got here at 5:14 this afternoon. We're taking a lot of calls about it, just sitting back and watching things develop state to state. And this has been the number one story for us today. There's very little to update on. We're still watching the Iran situation play out. Trump is continuing with the economic pressure. Scott Bessent, his Treasury Secretary, is probably, he is a hitman. This dude's a sniper. I heard somebody today saying it's pretty good way to put it. He is the new Secretary of War because we're waging an economic war right now on this country, and it's probably more effective at pushing them forward without just bombing them. A place that can survive that can't survive having their money cut off, and that's what's going on. Yesterday, I was able to go through an explanation of what happens to the oil wells when you have to shut them down because you can't keep pumping oil. And doggone if the White House didn't put out a similar statement today trying to explain that. Trump was trying to explain it this morning in a news conference. So they know what they're doing. It's an engineering thing. It's an economic thing. We'll see where it plays. We'll see who's got the strength to survive a hike in oil prices or not. The UAE getting out of OPEC was a huge story yesterday. It's hard to even describe how impactful that could be going forward. They're going to take advantage of the situation. OPEC was artificially doing things to keep the prices up. UAE just wants to pump oil and get it sold. They could make some serious coin off this situation and start to do some things that would help from the world being so reliant on things moving through the strait in the first place. But that gets kind of complicated. Don't need to get in the weeds on that today. We got the rest of the week to talk about it. It's all about the district maps and the map wars this afternoon and what that does to the headcount in Congress in the midterms. So here we are. All right, let's go back to Henry. Henry, I'll give you a few more minutes, man. I hated to cut you loose, brother, but we had to get to that break. What's going on with you?
Well, just remembering things the way they used to be and how they're no longer going to be that way. I mean, you know, I went into New York. I wanted to be part of that celebration, and the streets of that city were packed. So, I mean, you couldn't walk around. I was on top of a garbage truck, a sanitation truck, with two lovely ladies that I helped get up there. And we were watching as the parade came into the street, and we could see those who had been kept in 444 days in captivity. And the way look at the way they treat people today and how they treated people back then is the same. It's not going to change. But somehow or another, we've moved so far away from that unity. And it has to be through education. You know, garbage in, garbage out. I always believe that what you take in is what you become. And especially for the five people that you surround yourself with, you're going to become an addition of or an appendage of those five persons. One of them should be Jesus Christ, our Savior, and the rest of them should be those who also support. And, you know, we don't have that no more. I don't think nobody, you know, can actually do that any longer. We like I said before, there was a yellow ribbon around every oak tree. The song by, who was it, Dawn, that did that song, tie a yellow ribbon around the old oak
tree.
Yeah.
That's 100 years ago. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, you were still pretty young during that time, but surely you remember the electricity. I mean, the people were really, you know, together on who our enemies were and continue to be, even though Russia would fall, and thank God they did. They're coming back, as I said, and I'll say it a million times, they're coming back and aligning themselves with China, of course. And, you know, communism, and I'll probably quit after this, any form of communism, they must steal, rob, pillage from others to make themselves look better. I mean, they cannot have a standing army or a nuclear bomb without having to stealing it from us and from our scientists. And, they could not have ever gained that. And you probably saw a lot of that happen during the time of when this all occurred, when, we learned it through history in school. If not, if you were too young, then, we saw them steal everything that we achieved, and they use it against us. And they cannot be successful unless they're taking from others. And that is going on right now in this country. And it's by education. The Democrats have been so successful in taking the world, bringing it in within our borders, and convincing others to either shut up or get along. And you can only do that by going against those things.
Well, Henry, look,
grew up.
I get your concerns, but they've had a hell of a bad week with all that stuff. With a lot of their the little houses of cards, little phony Potemkin villages, and the things they've created have just been poofed into smoke this week. The Comey situation, where he's finally facing his own deceitful rhetoric. The phony stuff from the SPLC last week, where they were creating racial tension rather than fighting it just to be able to raise money. Yes, they were doing all that. And all the other things that have come out this week, the fraud operations, this country's being scammed. Even the COVID stuff. Thanks, Henry. Even the COVID stuff, where we found out about the scientists that have now been indicted for deceiving the country over that whole thing. It's like we're living in this artificial world that's been created. It doesn't really exist. Truth's coming out. Truth always comes out. I am derelict, though, because, thanks, Henry, I am derelict because I had a previous caller that wanted a little bit of a better explanation of what the ruling said. I meant to give you all this quote. So let me get the break in here, and I'll come back with that. This was Clarence Thomas's. He wrote his own opinion about the majority's opinion. He said it didn't go far enough. He's been passionate about this subject for a long time, because here's a man who has achieved on his own and overcome, and he understands the fallacy of trying to prop people up with these schemes that don't really serve what they're trying to serve. AlabamaDental.com bringing you the show tonight. That is Dr. Brian and his team. 4 dentists in the practice. I always tell you that because it makes sense when you see how they're able to stay open until 7 at night, how they're open on Saturday. You got to have a lot of dentists to do that, and a great team around them that can work those flexible hours. So you and I have some options when we go get our teeth checked and get things done. AlabamaDental.com. Great location over in Irondale. Wonderful team, the latest technology, 4 different specialties with these guys to be able to handle anything you bring in there. We all need a dentist, even just for routine stuff. But if you've got more chronic issues, those flexible hours could be a game changer for when you really need help. It's AlabamaDental.com. Been on with us for years. Y'all go see the whole team. Dr. Brian's my personal dentist there and my friend. AlabamaDental.com. Back here in just a minute. All right, y'all. 526. Alabama Gold Refinery also bringing you the show today. People love this place because, in the past, if you just, where would you go do gold exchanges? You go to some jewelry store or something. But this is a place dedicated to precious metals, and they're fair about their pricing, and they'll do anything. They'll sell it to you. They'll buy it from you. They'll trade it with you. I'm not saying you bring a goat in there and they'll trade you gold for it, but if you got scrap gold and you want a fixed sort of coin or something that's stamped and measured and weighed that you can collect, they'll do that with you. Steve's a great guy like that. He's happy to talk to you too. He will talk your head off about the history of this stuff because he just knows it. They live it, they love it, and to me it's an education and a cool experience. They've got things, antique things and ancient things brought in. It's a really neat place to visit. Safe location in Homewood across from the Regions Bank on 29th. And of course, all the security you would expect to go in and out of there with your valuables, and central location too. You just pull right up in front of the door there in Homewood. Steve and the whole team, alabamagoldrefinery.com, alabamagoldrefinery.com. The best description of the tenor of the 6-3 ruling came from Clarence Thomas today. And I'm just going to give you his quote to try to explain the disposition on it. He says, "Today's decision should largely put an end to this disastrous misadventure in voting rights jurisprudence." He's been saying that for 30 years, by the way. And that was his strongest line. He went on to say a bunch of other stuff. That Section 2 of the voting right does not regulate how states draw lines at all. The text is clear. It bans voting qualifications, prerequisites, or standards, practices, and procedures that deny the right to vote based on race. Drawing district maps, it says nothing about the district maps and the way it does it. But those standards for qualification became the district lines, and then we could get all in the weeds on that if we wanted to. Let's go to Bob in Trussville real quick. One more call before we get to the bottom. Bob, what is on your mind this afternoon?
I am so sick of this governor. Her only claim to fame is she has made it through a couple of terms without getting thrown out of office. And that's a big thing in Alabama since 1986.
Yeah, I guess that's success.
I'm looking at this statement that she's said. She says, while we are not in a position to have a special session, I hope the court is favorable to Alabama. Well, crap, woman. The court just gave you a favorable ruling.
Yeah.
Why aren't you in a position to have a special session? All you have to do is say, go. You bag. And then later on, she says in that thing, we are proud of our progress. Well, get to progressing, woman.
I got you, Bob. We got to get the bottom in here. I'm frustrated.
Of this.
I'm frustrated too, brother. I got to go. Bottom of the hour. Back here in a minute. Y'all stay tuned. Okay, it's 5:35. Leland Live, Talking 805. Let's keep on trucking. Stockton Mortgage, also a fine sponsor here on the show. If you've been thinking about or considering or trying to even figure out where to start with something with your mortgage products that you use on your house, or whether you're trying to buy your first house, today the Fed left the interest rates unchanged. We didn't expect much different. So did the stock market, because Jerome Powell is still the head of the Fed for a few more weeks. This may be his last. He gave a little talk afterwards too. This is probably his last board vote and his last appearance. And by the way, his replacement, this Kevin Warsh, did pass a Senate committee for confirmation from the Senate. So maybe we'll get some relief when you can remove some of the politics from the Fed board. But nonetheless, the rates are what they are, and is a lot of folks in that business will tell you, secure the property, get yourself pre-approved, move on in. You can always refi later, but hesitancy can cost you to lose. I mean, the prices are still going up on the home sometimes with appreciation of that value, and you're always going to be renting. So if you're considering it, don't take my advice. Take the advice of the trained experts at Stockton Mortgage. SaveWithStockton.com, SaveWithStockton.com. They've got that website set up just for the people in this audience, and they're ready to go. They work all the time. They'll call you. Even if you reach out to them late at night, they'll get back with you just as soon as possible, within reason. SaveWithStockton.com. All right. We'll do some more phone calls as we work our way through this evening. I'm still monitoring reaction coming from state to state over the Supreme Court ruling, because it's been a little bit varied. I just saw one from the Georgia Attorney General applauding the ruling and saying Georgia would move forward and defend their rights to handle their districts. No real clarity. There'd been some report to me that there was potentially some other restriction that would stop Georgia and Alabama based on timelines of when the primary was scheduled. But I don't even know that that's in effect. The thing that has frustrated a lot of people this afternoon, particularly with the governor's office, is Kay Ivey's office is leaning on another court case that's still pending that restricted the state of Alabama from redrawing districts until the census. Well, today's ruling should blow that out. So rather than putting a statement out, in my opinion, from the governor's office saying, well, there's nothing we can do, and surrendering, get your lawyers to prepare a brief, file it with the court tonight, and try to get clarity on behalf of the state, because you've still got conflicting rulings. One, a race-based district enforcement that tells us we got to keep those districts through the next census, and then another ruling that's completely landmark over the whole issue that would seem to throw that out. Now, granted, as long as you get the case pending, you get the case pending, but don't quit or get your damn attorney general on the phone. Where's Steve Marshall? If I'm derelict in missing a statement from him, I don't miss all the campaign statements because I get those left and right all day long. Where's the damn attorney general's office on this? They're the ones probably, if the state's defending itself in front of the court, they're the one defending the state, and haven't heard a thing from them this afternoon. But as usual, the rest of our southern states tend to be ahead of us, including Mississippi, who's already preparing a special session. Tennessee looks like it's moving forward. Florida today confirmed their new congressional maps from the Senate. It passed the House and the Senate. By the way, if you want some pure entertainment, let me play this for you again. Some jackass in the Florida House, wildly outnumbered down there in Florida, by the way, decided rather than just be a member of the body and vote, she was going to get a big old pink bullhorn to match her big old pink pantsuit and get on the floor of the House and yell and scream in a bullhorn about how the state legislature taking an actual vote on an issue was unconstitutional. While this fool was making a fool out of herself, as people tend to do in politics nowadays, the court was, I think the court ruling was being handed down while this idiot was yelling, and you can hear the vote take place while she's yelling. All she did was make a fool out of herself.
This is a violation of the Constitution. It is. It's a violation of the Constitution. I'm out of order, but y'all are doing illegal.
Representative Persons Mullica has waived closed. The question now recurs on final
still
passage
yelling.
of HB 1D.
Walking up and down the
The
aisles.
clerk will unlock the machine and the members will proceed to vote. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? The clerk will lock the machine and announce the vote.
83 yeas, 28 nays, Mr. Speaker.
Show the bill passes. Read the next bill.
None on the desk, Mr. Speaker.
So they dunked on this woman while she's yelling in her bullhorn. Look, we're either going to have the Oprah Winfrey show or this Jerry Springer show in legislative bodies, or they're going to show up and cast a vote and count the votes, and the winner wins, and then we go lick our wounds and keep working on the issue. That's how the country has run for 250 years. Well, not quite, because we didn't quite have a government after the Declaration. It took a minute. But this is this is where they are. This woman decides, like those idiots in Tennessee that went and tried to do a lock-in. They're members of the body. What's the guy with the puffy hair that's always on TV up in Tennessee? It's more about, just like Nancy Mace and the people on the Republican side, it's getting attention for yourself rather than just doing your job. Cast your vote. She could have cast a vote. Now, granted, she was outvoted 3-1. So the bullhorn was nothing but a stunt. Good for them. Good for DeSantis and the state of Florida. Shortly after that stunt, the Florida Senate passed their version of the district lines, and now the governor will sign it. And Virginia and Obama and the rest of these fools can get bent. Supreme Court today, 6-3, told them that scheme is over. You don't get your set-asides. And one more thing about that, and Clarence Summers was so correct. It's been a misadventure. It's been a folly. It hasn't improved anything. Hasn't improved race relations. It hasn't improved representation. But if you're going to go with identity, I mean, there are other groups that can claim aggrieved status. Should we draw lesbian districts? Should we draw Japanese districts? Does everybody get their own congressional face so that we can show diversity? Is this a campaign? Is this a Netflix special, or are we running a government here? I mean, it's been absurd on its face since all this stuff's been done. Naturally,
this is the garden hose now.
Sorry about that. Got an ad popping up over here. Imagine that. Anyway, I have talked myself in a circle this afternoon because I'm really more frustrated with the governor's office for being so lazy. They're just lazy. They don't want to do anything. I said it earlier. These guys want to cut ribbons and give tours of the Capitol and take pictures of little school kids that come through and not do anything because she's done. I mean, she's going to coast through the summer and cough and wheeze through the fall and put the little Christmas tree up somewhere around December and have the state tree. We are gathered here for the state tree. And then boom, it's winter, and then we'll have a new governor, and there'll be an inaugural, and she'll be off to Shady Pines. And maybe we can get busy running a state down here and doing something instead of these cross-dressing Democrats that have hijacked her administration that told the governor to punt on this. Why, this precedent-setting rule, the court's already told us we can't do anything, so we're just going to sit here. File the damn brief. That's all I have to say about that. I'm just going to stop talking about it. I'm going to something else in the next segment. I've gotten hoarse yelling at the governor's office this afternoon. All-American Metals. Let's talk. AA-metal.com. Y'all, this is a wonderful place if you want to go. And by the way, I'm going to tease a little bit because I don't have all the details yet, but they're about to have a sale on some components. If some of you are doing your own projects or you're a contractor and you need this or that, every now and then in their business, they'll go, because they own their own factories, they'll produce some support structure or even some sheets, some steel sheets that either the customer didn't want or they had to redo, and they wind up with this inventory that they build, which is good stuff for maybe some of your projects. And this is going to be a very good sell for you to be able to pick these items up. I'm even interested in a couple of things. I may expand some things over here on my project. So we'll tell you all about the details of that as soon as they gather that and get it to us. So heads up on that. That'll be coming soon. But in the meantime, when it comes to starting with a building, if you've never done this before, don't feel overwhelmed and don't go try to piece it together in your own mind yourself. It's just a whole lot easier to call All-American. Let them help you with your design. From the beginning, they've got professional designers that can spit out a set of stamped plans for your project. And you'll need that. Some people need that to get financed or to get zoning approval or permitting for where you are for whatever project you're doing, whether it's commercial or residential. And when you're ready and all that's been approved and you're ready to go, they'll produce the building, the whole building. They make the framing, the primary and secondary framing, all the stuff that holds that framing together. I mean, I learned a lot going through their factories, and they even went out and invested in the machine to create their, what they call clips. These are 90-degree steel pieces that hold some of the infrastructure together. Rather than relying on the supply chain to be able to produce those components, they wanted control of the whole process so that they can make their own clips. They've got the bolts and the screws and the nuts and the poles and everything that's involved in these projects. They keep it in-house, on shelf, ready to go, and they will package this thing up. I call it a big old box of Legos on an 18-wheeler and bring it to your site. If you need help erecting the building, getting it out of the ground, John and those guys can help you with that too, either from their crews or a lot of great contractors around town that know how to get these buildings up. I can just tell you from my experience, once that concrete pad's ready, these things go up fast. You are dried in and ready to do the rest of your work on your building. You can't beat the value of steel construction. It's going to last. It's going to survive all the weather. And it's just per square foot, the best thing you can do. If you need a building, whether it's an outbuilding, a pole barn, a residential, what they call barn dominiums now. It's one of those things. Talk to them. They make residential red iron. That's where you've got to put iron into a residential project like a staircase or something like that. They'll do projects on that level. And of course, all kinds of commercial and retail warehouses and retail build outs. It's All American Metals. You can get them online at aa-metal.com. aa-metal.com. Back in a minute. 5:51, Leland Live, Talk 99.5. Let's get all wrapped up here. Express Oil Change. I love this promotion. I think they're just about wrapped up with it, but through the rest of the month, which is, I guess, today and tomorrow, it's hard to believe we're almost to May. They're giving $1 for every oil change you do to the babies over at Children's Hospital. Man, there's so many stories from children's friends, family, stories I've covered, and the miracles that they do at that very specialized hospital. And it's nice to see a big local chain business here in Birmingham step up like this. And they do it. Apparently, this is an annual thing, and they've raised millions through this program for children's. I can't imagine how many oil changes they do. I believe their count right now at Express is 63 locations, which means you probably know where there's 1 or 2 or 3 near you, where you work or where you play or where you live. And I told you the other day I counted 5 between me and the radio station, so I can always whip in there if I've got 10 minutes and knock that out, take care of my ride. Got to take care of those rides, man. Express will do it for you, do it well. And give $1 right now to Children's Hospital. It's they like to say it's changing oil and changing lives, and they certainly are. Express Oil Change. All right, let's look at the weather. We do have more rain coming in tonight. Nothing severe. Most of it is to our south, which is good for those folks because they're the ones, you get south of Montgomery, you've got some serious drought conditions starting to build. So we're just in this pattern where every 2 or 3 days we've got showers coming through. So tonight, some of it's going to develop near here and start to push through this evening around Birmingham. It's mainly the metro and to the south. There are a couple of little loose cells that are out north of town. So look out for that tonight. Just if you're traveling around, could be some nice sleeping weather, and it'll move on through tonight. Another chance of wet weather coming through on Friday, maybe into Saturday. Really hurts me for the golf tournament people. I can see them when I pass by that area where the Regions is going on. Looks like they're pulling it off, though. I've seen nothing but nonstop pictures of football coaches and celebrities out there for the Pro-Am today. Some of my other media buddies that cover that kind of thing out there having a good time. But, yeah, it doesn't look good for the pros as the weather's just going to be soggy for the next few days. Speaking of golf, I'm not a golfer and don't follow the sport that closely. But I keep seeing this come across, and I don't know the politics of it, so to speak. But Saudi Arabia was the backer of this new golf league. They were trying to rival the PGA. It's just a nice little segue from our tournament here at home. But they created something, I think you pronounce it Live Golf. Am I right about that, AJ? You probably know more about this than me. This Live Golf
yes.
league. And I know at some point they were messing around to get Tiger Woods involved. But anyway, Saudi Arabia was the backers of it, and they've completely pulled out. They're out. They're done. I don't know what happened. Don't know why it fell apart. But that's going to be an interesting story. I mean, you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars that they were ponying up to apparently lure these players away and split them up into a whole different world league. But there's that. There's that story. I'm trying to sweep up some things that I didn't get to with all my ranting and raving over the congressional districts. Of course, we mentioned it in passing. James Comey turned himself in today. That case will be debated until it's tried, and it's not going to surprise. It is not going to surprise me. I'm just bracing you for it. As delicious as it is for that arrogant douchebag to have to go be fingerprinted and booked, and the other stuff that he's done that he ought to be held accountable for. Some people believe this is sort of a holding charge to get him into the auspices of some of the other stuff. I just don't know. But it's not going to surprise me that his attorneys file motions to dismiss, and he gets that case knocked out as well. He is an attorney of some standing, of course, and is well connected. And he was able to get out of the last one on a technicality because of the appointment of the prosecutor. So will Comey ever actually face jail time? I'm just dubious. Or maybe the state's got a much bigger case than we have previously known about. So there's that story tonight as we move right along. Also, we had the Federal Reserve. I did mention this for a minute when we were talking about Danny Knowles a second ago. Jerome Powell should be his last board meeting and rate vote before he has to move on. and Kevin Warsh takes his place. He is moving along swimmingly through the Senate confirmation process. Warsh, that is, and seems to be a pretty likable guy. Philosophically, he says a lot of things that would really be reform-minded, but I would just warn you there, too, being a little bit skeptical. It's the Federal Reserve, and it's a powerful, weird, non-governmental / quasi-governmental entity that has screwed us over since it was formed. And I don't imagine one personality is going to come in there and change the place too much. He is reform-minded in that he thinks they do too much meddling in certain areas. But Jerome Powell, the good news, I guess there's good news, in addition to Comey having to turn himself in today, it was also that we just saw the last of Jerome Powell. And, of course, the vote today left the rates unchanged. That was widely expected. It's not fundamentally sound, but he got a pretty good share of the vote on the board when they voted. I think it was an 8-3 vote today. That didn't really spook the markets at all. They're still watching the oil price with this blockade situation continuing with Iran. And, of course, the strategy remains clear. Trump's even telling his staff, prepare for us to be able to do this economic blockade long term. And they're doing it by reaching out to today. Todd Bessent put out some people call him Bessent, but he put out a statement saying that we may start sanctioning secondary parties that are actually willing to buy this black market oil if Iran's able to get it delivered somewhere other than through the Strait. In other words, continue to put the squeeze on because they are just trapped with their own inability to put that oil anywhere, and it's going to cause their rigs to start failing, and that's when they've really got more economic trouble. That there are reasons that could cause them more trouble when they can't pay their police and the guard people that are oppressing the citizens. Those folks quit. And that's more effective than bombing them. I mean, at some point you can't bomb them out of an ideology, but you can have their people potentially be in a position to make some change. And we know they're discombobulated and fighting with each other. So there's always hope there. Meantime, our economy's got to grit our teeth and hang on to these prices for a little while longer. We'll see if there's any fresh developments. My understanding is ecologically or geologically, engineering-wise, their wells start to fail in the next 48 hours, and that's where we may see some movement from the Iranian side. Who knows? That's it. That's all I got. I got to go lay down. I'm tired, boss. I'm done. See y'all tomorrow. Leland Live. Hey, Jake.
All right, stay tuned for Breaking Bread coming up next. Goodbye, AJ.